Listen closely. In the next 10 minutes, you'll begin to understand why your emotions keep hijacking your trades and how Mark Douglas's timeless discipline practices can finally give you the calm, confident edge you've been chasing. This chapter is your doorway into a new mindset, a professional mindset, one built on control, clarity, and unshakable discipline. Let me start by asking you something. Comment below. When was the last trade you made just because you had to be right? Really think about it. Most traders don't lose because they're unskilled. They lose because they're human. And that's exactly what we're here to fix. If you're smart, you probably shouldn't be here, yet you are. And that's a good thing. It means you're finally ready to understand the mental game behind the charts. If you stay with me, chapter by chapter, you'll learn the root emotional triggers that sabotage your trades, the practices that build discipline, and the mindset transformations Mark Douglas taught to traders who went on to become legends. Picture this moment as the quiet doorway before the market storm, a place where you learn to breathe, think, and act like a trader who isn't controlled by fear or impatience or the need to be right. From this moment on, everything you learn will guide you toward becoming the calmest voice inside your own mind. Because discipline isn't about following rules. It's about becoming the kind of person who doesn't feel the need to break them. Now, before we go deeper, I want you to imagine something. Imagine stepping into the mindset of a trader who doesn't panic when the market spikes. A trader who doesn't chase entries or take revenge trades. A trader who, no matter the volatility, stays cool, confident, almost fearless. That's not fantasy. That's psychology. And it's exactly what Mark Douglas spent decades teaching. Douglas believed one powerful idea, a truth that separates amateurs from professionals. The problem in trading is never the market. The problem is always your mind. Think about that. Every time you hesitated, every time you forced a trade, every time you broke your rule just this once, it wasn't the chart, it wasn't the news, it wasn't the market whispering in your ear. It was you, your beliefs, your fears, your expectations, acting out on screen. When I first heard that, I felt a little attacked. But then it clicked. The market doesn't know who you are. It doesn't care about your hopes or your anxiety. It's just information. Price, volume, liquidity. Neutral. Completely neutral. The only thing emotional about trading is you. And that's why this audiobook exists. Because once you understand what your mind is doing during a trade, what it's protecting, what it's chasing, what it fears, you gain the power to change everything. Let me take you back to a story most traders never hear. In the late 1980s, a small group of aspiring traders attended a private workshop with Mark Douglas. One of them, a guy barely getting by, admitted he blew up his account 3 separate times. Not because of bad strategy. He had a great one. He blew up because he couldn't stay disciplined. He couldn't sit through uncertainty. Sound familiar? Douglas didn't give him a new strategy. He didn't tell him which market to trade. He simply taught him to think differently, to detach from outcome, to accept randomness, to see the market as a place of possibilities, not threats. And that trader later became one of the most consistent performers in his firm, all because he learned how to calm his inner world before he ever touched the charts. This is the transformation you're stepping into, a shift from emotional trading to controlled execution, from impulsive decisions to disciplined practice, from needing to be right to simply letting the probabilities play out. And if you're wondering, why is this so important? Why is discipline the very first step? Here's the truth. Without a disciplined mind, strategy is worthless. Indicators become toys. Patterns become traps. And the market becomes a mirror reflecting your own emotional chaos. But the reverse is also true. With discipline, even a simple strategy can make you unstoppable. With discipline, patience becomes natural. With discipline, you stop fighting the market and finally start aligning with it. Throughout this audiobook, we'll unpack the core principles Mark Douglas taught the world. how to think in probabilities, how to detach from outcome, how to build routines that hardwire discipline, how to quiet the voice in your head that keeps screaming, "Get in now," and how to transform your mindset into one that welcomes uncertainty without fear. You'll hear real stories from traders who mastered their minds, and stories from those who didn't. Both hold lessons. Both will help you grow, and both will become part of your evolution as a disciplined trader. So take a breath, lean into this moment, let your mind settle, because this chapter is the beginning of something powerful, a full shift in how you experience the market and how you experience yourself. And now, as we prepare the step deeper into the world of trading psychology, I want you to remember one thing. You can't control the market, but you can absolutely control the person touching the buttons. That's where discipline begins, and that's where your transformation starts. In the next chapter, we're going to explore the mental battlefield inside every trader, why emotions flare up at the worst moments, why bias clouds your entries, and why the market has a way of exposing the parts of yourself you didn't even know were there. Stay with me. Your new mindset is just getting started.
Let me make you a promise. If you listen to the next 10 minutes with full attention, you'll finally understand the emotional trigger that keeps ruining your trades. Every hesitation, every revenge entry, every impulsive buy, they all come from the same internal place. And once you see it clearly, you'll never trade the same way again. Ever lost a trade and asked yourself, how did I screw that up again? If so, you're in the right chapter. And because we're building honesty here, let me ask you something that hits right where it matters. Comment below. When was the last trade you made because you had to be right? If you're smart, you probably know the rules. You know the setups. You know the strategy. You shouldn't be here struggling with your own emotions. But you are. And that means something powerful is about to shift. Because today, we're stepping into the real battlefield of trading. Not the charts, not the market, not the news, but your inner world, the invisible game happening behind your eyes. Mark Douglas taught one of the most important truths in trading psychology. The market doesn't create your emotions. The market reveals them. Let that sink in. When you feel fear, the market didn't create it. You did. When you feel impatience, the market didn't force it. You generated it. When you feel the urge to jump in early, or to chase because you're scared of missing out, that emotion came from inside you, not from the flashing candles on your screen. Most traders never understand this. They spend years blaming patterns, brokers, volatility, liquidity, algos, spreads, everything except their own psychology. But the traders who rise, the ones who survive the long run, they turn inward. They learn to decode themselves. That's what this chapter is about. Understanding the emotional engine inside you, the one running your trading decisions without your permission. Let me tell you a story. Back in the early 2000s, there was a trader at a Chicago prop firm. Brilliant guy, knew every setup in the book, but he kept blowing up small accounts one after another. Not because he traded too large, but because his fear of missing out was stronger than his discipline. If the market moved without him, he panicked. If it didn't move at all, he panicked. The dude was basically in a never-ending mental fight with himself. One day his mentor told him, "The chart isn't your enemy. You're your own enemy." And that hit him so hard, he had to step away from the desk. He realized his impatience wasn't coming from the market. It was coming from his belief that if I don't act now, I'll lose everything. That belief wasn't true, but his emotions treated it like it was. Sound familiar? Every trader has their version of this mental battlefield. For some, it's fear. For others, it's the need to be right. For others, it's the panic of sitting still while the market moves without them. And for many, it's the classic trap of trying to trade your way out of emotional discomfort. But here's the twist. The market isn't causing any of it. The market is just showing you the emotional baggage you brought with you. This is why Douglas was so obsessed with mindset. He knew that strategy without emotional clarity is like driving a Ferrari with your eyes closed. You might go fast, but you're definitely going to crash. So let's break down the 3 big emotional forces that run your trading without your awareness. First, fear. Fear of losing. Fear of missing out. Fear of being wrong. Fear turns your rational brain into static. It pushes you out early. It makes you chase late. It makes you overprotect trades that don't need protection. Fear isn't a trading issue. Fear is a belief issue. Second, impatience. This is the silent killer. Impatience is the belief that something should be happening right now, even when the market disagrees. Impatience convinces you to force trades because you can't sit with the discomfort of waiting. Every new trader thinks patience is about waiting for entries, but real patience is about controlling the urges inside your mind. Third, bias. Your brain loves to be right, so it filters information to support your belief, even when the chart is clearly screaming the opposite. This is why traders don't stop out fast enough. They're not protecting capital. They're protecting their ego. These 3 forces, fear, impatience, and bias, create the emotional battlefield in every trader. And what makes this battlefield tricky is that it doesn't feel like emotion. It feels like logic. Fear feels like caution. Impatience feels like opportunity. Bias feels like confidence. But underneath it all, it's just your mind trying to protect beliefs you haven't examined yet. You can't fix what you don't understand. And that's why this chapter matters. Because once you understand how your mind creates emotional distortions, you can finally break out of the cycle of self-sabotage. Think of great traders like Paul Tudor Jones. The guy once said, "The most important rule of trading is to play great defense." He didn't say the most important rule was finding the perfect setup. He didn't say the most important rule was predicting the market. He said defense, meaning discipline, emotional control, and clarity, is everything. Because he understood that trading is 80% psychological and 20% execution. Let's be real. Some traders listening to this right now think they have a strategy problem. They don't. They have an inner world problem. And that's actually good news. Because your strategy might take years to master, but your mindset, you can start transforming that today. So right now, I want you to reflect. If you stripped away indicators, charts, news, everything, what's left? Just you. Your breath, your thoughts, your expectations, your fears, your story about what the market should do. That's the battlefield, not the screen. The screen is just the mirror. And here's the beautiful part. Once you understand this battlefield, you can win on it. You can retrain it. You can rebuild it. You can turn chaos into clarity, emotion into neutrality, fear into focus. All the things Mark Douglas dedicated his life to teaching. And now, as we close this chapter, I want you to hold on to one truth. The market doesn't move against you. It simply reflects the emotional patterns you bring into it. Master those patterns, and the game changes forever. In the next chapter, we're going to explore those patterns at their root, your beliefs. Because every emotion you feel, every reaction you have, every trade you force or avoid, it all comes from the belief system you've been carrying long before you became a trader. And once you understand your beliefs, you can finally reshape them into the mindset of a calm, confident, unshakable professional. Let's dive into that next.
Listen carefully. In the next 10 minutes, you're going to learn the real reason you keep falling into the same trading mistakes, even when you swear you won't. It's not your strategy. It's not your entries. It's not your broker or the spread or the volatility. It's your beliefs. The quiet,
hidden assumptions running in the background of your mind, shaping every decision you make. And let me hit you with this right away. Comment below. When was the last trade you made because you had to be right? If that question stings, good. You're supposed to feel something here. Because beliefs, your beliefs, are what drive your emotions, your reactions, your risk tolerance, and your discipline. If you're smart, you probably shouldn't need an audiobook to tell you this. But you're here, and that tells me you're ready for a breakthrough most traders never reach. So here's the promise. If you stay with me through this chapter, you'll finally understand the belief system sabotaging your consistency and how to replace it with one that supports calm, controlled, professional trading. Let's dive in. Mark Douglas built his entire philosophy around one idea. You don't trade the market, you trade your beliefs about the market. Think about that. Two traders can look at the same chart, the same candle, the same setup, and one sees opportunity while the other sees danger. The chart didn't change. Their beliefs did. Beliefs are the lens through which you interpret every tick, every wick, every piece of price action. And when those beliefs are distorted, when they're built on fear, insecurity, ego, or past pain, they twist the way you see the market. Let me give you an example. There was a trader who kept cutting winners early. Every time the trade went green, he felt that little spark of hope. Then the anxiety. Then the overwhelming urge to take the profit before it disappeared. He thought he had a discipline problem, but no, he had a belief problem. Deep down, he believed he didn't deserve to win. So every time the market gave him a gift, he snatched it out of fear that it would be taken away. Then there's the opposite trader, the one who holds losers way too long, hoping, praying, convincing himself it'll come back. That's not bad risk management. That's the belief that being wrong means you are flawed. So instead of cutting the loss, you protect your ego and destroy your account. Beliefs run everything. And the wild part? Most traders don't even know what their beliefs are. They just react emotionally, impulsively, unconsciously. But the great traders, the legends, they learned to decode their beliefs. Take Paul Tudor Jones. Everyone quotes his line, "Losers average losers." But what they forget is why he said it. Jones believed that protecting capital was more important than protecting ego. That belief alone shaped every decision he made. It made him consistent. It made him disciplined. It made him a billionaire. Or look at Ed Sequita. He once said, "Everyone gets what they want from the markets." And what he meant was simple. Your belief system is so powerful that it pushes you toward the outcome your mind is secretly chasing, even if that outcome is loss. So here's the question you've probably never asked yourself. What are your beliefs trying to make you experience? Do you believe you need to prove something? You'll overtrade. Do you believe you need to be perfect? You'll hesitate constantly. Do you believe a loss means personal failure? You'll avoid pulling the trigger when it matters most. Do you believe you're not skilled enough? You'll sabotage winning trades because success feels uncomfortable. Your beliefs run the show, even when you don't realize it. So let's break this down into something practical. Douglas taught that all trading problems fall into a few belief-based traps. 1. The belief that the market owes you something. It doesn't. Never has. Never will. This belief leads to forcing trades and revenge trading. 2. The belief that certainty exists. It doesn't. This belief makes you freeze, hesitate, or ignore setups unless everything looks perfect. 3. The belief that being wrong is dangerous. It's not. It's data. This belief is the reason most traders blow accounts. They protect their ego instead of their capital. 4. The belief that your past defines your future. It doesn't. This belief keeps you replaying old losses and repeating old mistakes. Now, here's the part most people miss. You can't delete a belief, but you can replace one. Just like updating your phone, your mental software gets old. You need an upgrade. And that upgrade comes from new experiences, new evidence, and new practice. So let's talk about how to build empowering beliefs, beliefs that create discipline instead of destroying it. Start with this: I don't need to be right. I only need to follow my plan. This is the belief of a professional. It instantly removes pressure. It kills ego. It centers you on process instead of outcome. Next, every trade is just one event in a much larger series. This frees you from emotional attachment. One loss doesn't matter. One win doesn't matter. Consistency is the real target. And finally, my job is not to control the market. My job is to control myself. This is the belief that builds an unshakable mindset. This is the belief Mark Douglas tried to teach the world. This is the belief that will carry you through volatility, uncertainty, and chaos. Now, take a moment to think about the beliefs you brought into trading. The beliefs from childhood, from your past failures, from your fear of disappointing others, from your need to prove yourself. Do those beliefs help you or hurt you? Because the trader you are today is a reflection of the beliefs you've carried up until now. But the trader you become, that's shaped by the beliefs you choose next. This chapter is about choosing better ones. And as we move forward, the next step is to understand the mindset that makes these empowering beliefs actually work. Because beliefs shape perception, but probabilities shape your entire framework. In the next chapter, we're diving into one of Mark Douglas's most famous teachings: how to think in probabilities instead of predictions, how to let go of certainty, how to finally trade without fear. If you're ready, let's step into Chapter 4.
Listen closely. What you're about to learn in the next 10 minutes is the mental shift that separates amateurs from professionals. This is the mindset upgrade that stops hesitation, kills fear, and finally breaks the addiction to being right. If you've ever stared at a chart and felt frozen, if you've ever begged the market to come back, if you've ever held a loser because your ego couldn't accept the hit, then this chapter will change how you trade forever. And let me hit you with the question for today's comment section. Comment below. When was the last trade you made because you wanted to predict the future instead of manage probability? Be honest. That answer alone can expose why you keep sabotaging yourself. Now, here's the promise. By the end of this chapter, you'll understand why certainty is a trap, why predictions kill consistency, and how the world's greatest traders use probability thinking to stay calm, controlled, and unstoppable. Let's go deeper.
Traders love certainty. They crave it. They want the market to behave. They want signals to be perfect. They want setups that never fail. But Mark Douglas destroyed that fantasy in one sentence. Anything can happen. Not because the market is chaotic, not because it hates you, but because every moment in the market is unique. Every candle forms from a new mix of buyers and sellers. Nothing repeats perfectly. So, why do traders expect certainty? Because certainty feels safe. Certainty feels comforting. Certainty gives your brain this illusion of control. But here's the truth Douglas kept repeating. Certainty is an emotional addiction. Probability is a professional mindset. Let me tell you a story. In the early days of Paul Tudor Jones' career, he lost big trying to predict tops and bottoms. He was convinced he knew what the market should do, and the market humbled him hard. That loss changed him. He realized prediction was ego, but probability was discipline. So he adopted a new belief, one you've heard before. Losers average losers. But the part no one talks about is the mindset behind that rule. He wasn't avoiding adding to losers because it was bad math. He avoided it because averaging down is an act of certainty. It's saying, I know I'm right, the market is wrong. And the market doesn't care about your certainty. It never has. Now think about Ed Seykota, one of the original trading legends. He said, win or lose, everybody gets what they want from the market. What he meant was this. If you're addicted to prediction, you will create results that confirm that addiction. You'll chase trades. You'll force entries. You'll ignore risk, and you'll ride emotional waves until your account bleeds out. Probability thinking breaks that cycle. So what does thinking in probabilities actually look like? Douglas described it as holding 5 beliefs all at once. 1. Anything can happen. Not in a negative way, but in an open, neutral, accepting way. 2. You don't need to know what's going to happen next to make money. You only need an edge, a repeatable pattern that works over many trades. 3. There's a random distribution of wins and losses for any edge. This means you can have 5 losing trades in a row and still be perfectly fine if your edge wins over time. 4. Every moment in the market is unique, so no pattern guarantees an outcome. And 5, your job is to execute flawlessly, not predict accurately. Big difference. When you internalize this, something shifts. You stop trying to be a prophet. You start acting like a strategist. Let me show you why that matters. Here's the difference between a certainty trader and a probability trader. A certainty trader hesitates. A probability trader executes. A certainty trader forces trades. A probability trader waits for edge. A certainty trader says, this has to work. A probability trader says, if this fails, it's just one of the losses in the distribution. A certainty trader feels attacked when the market moves against them. A probability trader feels nothing, just notes the outcome and moves on. And here's the biggest shift. A certainty trader needs validation. A probability trader needs consistency. Everything changes when you stop needing to be right. Let me give you a real-world example to make this stick. There's a story about a trader who made great predictions, like freakishly accurate ones, but still couldn't stay profitable. Why? Because he sized up emotionally based on how right he felt. Every time he felt sure, he bet big. And when the market didn't follow his script, he blew up. Certainty punished him. Meanwhile, another trader with a simple breakout strategy, nothing fancy, stayed profitable year after year. He wasn't smarter, he didn't predict better, he just executed his edge like a machine. Every trade was just one event, nothing more. Probability rewarded him. So let me ask you something real. What type of trader do you want to be? The one who predicts the future or the one who survives it? Because the truth is, the market doesn't reward genius. It rewards discipline, neutrality, consistency, emotional detachment. Probability thinking creates all three. Now, let's make this practical. Here's how you start thinking in probabilities today. Step 1. Accept that your job is execution, not prediction. Tattoo this into your mind. Step 2. Treat each trade as one outcome in a long series, not a referendum on your value as a trader. Step 3. Expect losses. Seriously, expect them. They're not failures. They're fees. Step 4. Never judge yourself based on a single trade. Judge your process. Step 5. Act like a casino. Casinos don't know the outcome of a single hand, but they know the math over thousands of hands, and they win because they think in probabilities. So should you. When you internalize this, a strange calm enters your trading. When you don't need certainty, your mind relaxes. Your decisions sharpen. You stop fighting the market and you start flowing with it. This is what Douglas meant when he talked about true trading freedom. Freedom from fear, freedom from ego, freedom from the need to know. And that freedom sets the stage for the next level, emotional control in real time. Because even with probability thinking, you still have a body that reacts, a heart rate that spikes, a mind that stresses under pressure. In the next chapter, we're going to build the emotional toolkit used by elite traders, breathing techniques, micro-pausing, internal reframing, and learning to detach from the outcome instantly. If you're ready to trade like a calm, controlled professional, let's step into Chapter 5.
Listen closely, because in the next 10 minutes, you're going to learn the one skill that separates calm, consistent traders from emotional, self-sabotaging gamblers. If you've ever blown a good setup because your hands were shaking, if you've ever revenge traded and said, "What the hell was I thinking?" If you've ever watched your P&L swing and felt your chest tighten, then this chapter is going to give you actual tools, not theory, to control your emotions in real time. Not later, not after the trade, but while the market is moving. And before we go deeper, here's our question of the day. Comment below, when was the last trade you made because you had to be right, not calm? Be real. Those answers help other traders feel seen. Now let me hit you with a promise. By the end of this chapter, you'll know the emotional trigger sabotaging your best trades, and you'll learn the same in-the-moment calming techniques professional traders use to stay neutral even while the market is going wild. This is where trading psychology stops being abstract and becomes something you can literally feel in your body. Let's begin. Mark Douglas believed something most traders ignore. Your emotions don't come from the market. They come from your interpretation of the market. The chart doesn't make you anxious. Your beliefs about what a move means make you anxious. A candle isn't scary. Your attachment to the outcome is. This chapter is about breaking that attachment. Let's start with the simplest and most misunderstood skill, breath control. See, your breath is the remote control of your mind. Fast breathing signals fear. Shallow breathing signals panic. Smooth breathing signals safety. You can't think neutrally if your body is in survival mode. That's why many elite traders, yes, even the ones who talk tough, use breathwork before key decisions. There's a story about a hedge fund manager who would sit at his desk, eyes slightly closed, taking one slow inhale and one even slower exhale, right before hitting the buy or sell button. His team thought it was some kind of ritual. Later he explained, "It was the only way to keep my brain from convincing me I was in danger." Danger. That's what your mind thinks trading is, a threat, a fight-or-flight trigger. But you're not in danger. You're sitting in a chair, looking at a screen, pushing buttons. Your body just doesn't know that. So here's your first real-time emotional control practice, the steady exhale method. Breathe in normally.
Exhale slower than you inhale, at least twice as long. Do this 2 or 3 times whenever you feel tension rising. This slows your heart rate and tells your nervous system, we are safe. A safe brain is a rational brain. Let's move to the next technique. This one is powerful. The micropause. A micropause is a half-second reset, half a second of awareness, where you interrupt the emotional impulse before it becomes action. Most bad trades happen in under 1 second. A spike, a flash of panic, a twitchy click, and suddenly you're in a position you didn't plan. Micropausing interrupts the reflex. Here's how it works. The moment your mind screams, go, pause. Not long, just long enough to breathe once, look at the chart with fresh eyes, and ask one question. Is this my plan or my panic? That question alone has saved traders millions of dollars. And speaking of plans, let's talk about one of the most important emotional tools Douglas preached. Internal reframing. Internal reframing means changing the meaning you assign to a market move. For example, a trader with no emotional control sees a red candle and thinks, this is bad, I'm losing, get me out. A trader with emotional control sees the same candle and thinks, this is just information, nothing more. That second mindset is everything. It's neutrality. It's control. It's the difference between reacting to the market and responding to it. Let me give you a real-life example. There was a trader at a prop firm in New York who was known for being ridiculously calm during big market drops. One day, a new trainee asked him, how do you stay so chill when everything's tanking? He smiled and said, because it's not tanking, it's just moving. That's reframing. You don't fight the move. You don't dramatize the move. You don't personalize the move. You just observe it, neutrally. Here's a powerful reframe you can use right now. Instead of saying, the market is going against me, say, the market is doing what it always does, move. Instead of, this loss means I messed up, say, this loss means my edge is playing out. Instead of, I have to win, say, I have to execute. The meaning you assign shapes the emotion you feel. Change the meaning, you change the emotion. Now let's talk about the final and maybe hardest emotional skill, detaching from the outcome. Detachment isn't apathy. It's neutrality. It's understanding that a single trade doesn't define your career, or your identity, or your worth. One trade is just one trade. Look at the greatest traders ever. Paul Tudor Jones, Richard Dennis, Ed Seykota. They all understood probability, but more importantly, they understood detachment. Ed Seykota once said, some people lose because they want to lose. What he meant was, some traders stay emotionally attached to outcomes that reinforce their beliefs. If you believe you're unlucky, every loss feels personal. If you believe you're smart, every win inflates your ego. But if you believe you're a trader, losses become data, wins become data, and your identity stays untouched. That's detachment, and that's emotional freedom. Now, let's put all 4 practices into a simple real-time blueprint. Step 1. Control the breath. Slow exhale. Calm nervous system. Step 2. Micro-pause before clicking. Half a second to stop impulse. Step 3. Reframe the chart neutrally. No drama, no catastrophizing. Step 4. Detach from the outcome. This trade is one event, nothing more. Use this blueprint and your trading becomes smoother, calmer, more structured, more professional. Use it consistently and you'll start feeling something new in your trading sessions. A sense of space, a sense of control, a sense of being grounded while others are panicking. And that emotional stability sets you up for the next breakthrough, building disciplines that lock this stability in place permanently. Because emotional control doesn't just happen in the moment. It comes from your habits, your routines, your pre-market mind, your daily discipline loop. And that's exactly what we're stepping into next. Chapter 6 is where you learn how elite traders build routines that reduce randomness, increase consistency, and keep their emotions stable before the first candle even forms. If you're ready to become that kind of trader, Then let's step forward. Chapter 6 starts now.
Listen carefully, because the next 10 minutes will show you the one thing most traders ignore until it's too late. Discipline is not something you feel, it's something you build. Ever had a perfect setup and still found a way to mess it up? Ever looked back at a losing streak and realized every loss had the same pattern? Ever told yourself, I'm done overtrading, only to do it again the next day? If any of that sounded familiar, this chapter is your turning point. Because in the next few minutes, you'll learn the daily loop, the system the disciplined traders use to stay consistent, even when emotions swing hard. And real quick, here's our question of the day. Comment below, when was the last trade you made just to feel in control? Not because it followed your plan, but because you wanted to feel something. Be honest. It helps more traders than you think. Here's my promise. By the end of this chapter, you'll understand why discipline isn't a personality trait. It's a routine, a lifestyle, a loop you run every single day until consistency stops being a goal and becomes your default. Let's dive in. Traders love to talk about mindset and psychology, but very few talk about boring, repeatable discipline. The routines, the habits, the structure. Yet these are the things that separate legends from gamblers. Look at Jesse Livermore, one of the greatest traders who ever lived. A man who built massive fortunes multiple times and lost them all multiple times. Why? Because every time he drifted away from his rules, he drifted toward disaster. Livermore wasn't destroyed by the market. He was destroyed by breaking his own discipline loop. And that's the lesson traders today fail to learn. Your discipline is only as strong as your routine. So let's break down what a real discipline loop looks like. It starts with the first pillar, a pre-market ritual that controls your state before you even touch the charts. If you sit down with anxiety, you'll trade anxious. If you sit down distracted, you'll trade distracted. If you sit down without direction, you'll chase direction in the market. Professional traders don't do that. They prepare their state like athletes warming up before the game. Some meditate, some stretch, some breathe deeply. Some read their rules out loud. Some review yesterday's mistakes. But all of them do something. Here's a simple pre-market routine you can start with. 1. Review your plan. What setups do you trade? What conditions need to be present? 2. Review your rules. Maximum risk per trade. Number of trades allowed. Exit conditions. 3. Review your mindset. Are you calm? Are you impatient? Are you emotional? Whatever state you start in, you'll carry into the first trade. Now, the second pillar of the discipline loop is this: a written journal. Not optional. Not when you feel like it. Every day. A journal isn't about memory. It's about accountability. It's about pattern recognition. It's about seeing the emotional fingerprints behind your worst decisions. You write down your pre-market state, your trades, your emotions, your mistakes, and most importantly, what triggered those mistakes. Because once you track your triggers, you can neutralize them. There's a reason professional traders obsess over journaling. It removes randomness from your behavior, and consistency is the enemy of randomness. Let me tell you a story. There was a prop trader who kept blowing up once a quarter. Every 3 months, boom, a meltdown. When he started journaling, he discovered the same pattern. All his big losses happened on days he was tired, frustrated, or rushed. Those weren't trading problems. They were personal discipline problems leaking into the chart. After 6 weeks of journaling, he added a rule: no trading if my mind isn't clear. His performance changed instantly, not because he became smarter, but because he became structured. That's discipline. Now, let's talk about the third pillar: structured risk rules. Not flexible rules. Not, I'll risk what feels right today. Not, I'll size up if I'm confident. No, we're talking fixed, unbreakable, written rules. Mark Douglas said, when you remove the significance from individual trades, trading becomes effortless. Risk rules remove that significance. They take the spotlight of any single trade and put it on the system. Professional traders don't think, how can I make the most money today? They think, how can I manage risk so I'm alive tomorrow? Let me give you an example. A disciplined trader risks 1% per trade. No exceptions. Whether the setup feels perfect or questionable. Whether they're excited or bored. Whether yesterday was green or red. The rule stays the rule. Because consistency in risk creates consistency in results. Jesse Livermore wrote in his journal, "The lack of fixed, clear rules is the greatest weakness of the average trader." And he learned that lesson the hard way. Every time he deviated from his rules, he paid the price. Now let's talk about the fourth pillar: a post-market review. This is where discipline grows or dies. At the end of the session, you ask, did I follow my rules? Did I break my plan? Did I trade emotionally? Did I rush? Did I force something? This is where the discipline loop closes. This is where you get better for tomorrow. Most traders skip this part. They celebrate wins or sulk over losses, but they don't study their behavior. And because they don't study their behavior, they repeat it. Professional traders review every session, every trade, every emotion. If they broke a rule, they write it down. If they nailed a setup, they document why. If they felt emotional, they analyze the trigger. Discipline doesn't come from motivation. It comes from repetition, from the loop. A pre-market ritual, a written journal, structured risk rules, a post-market review. Do this every day, and you eliminate randomness from your trading. You become stable, predictable, consistent. And that stability leads to something powerful: impulse control. Because the moment your routines get tight, your impulses lose power. And impulse control is exactly where we're headed next. Chapter 7 is all about the real battle traders fight, the inner war with fear, greed, and that wild urge to jump into a trade just because you feel something. We'll talk about the moments when George Soros made massive decisions with complete emotional neutrality, and how you can break the cycle of revenge trading and impatience for good. If you're ready to get rid of the emotional spikes that destroy your discipline, let's move into Chapter 7.
Listen closely, because the next few minutes might save you from your next emotional blow-up in the market. Right now, you're about to learn why your brain pushes you into fear, greed, and overtrading, and more importantly, how to stop it. Ever blown a trade and instantly felt that rising heat in your chest? That pressure telling you, get it back right now? If you're smart, you shouldn't be here. And yet you are. And that's a good thing, because it means you're ready to change. In these next 10 minutes, you'll uncover the emotional trigger that's been hijacking your decisions, pushing you into revenge trades, impulsive entries, and unnecessary risk. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Comment below. When was the last trade you made because you had to be right? Let's get into it. The real enemy: emotional urgency. Mark Douglas taught something most traders never fully accept.
Your biggest losses don't come from bad setups. They come from emotional urgency. That moment where you feel like you have to trade, you must enter, you must make it back, you must save the day. But the market doesn't reward emotional urgency. It punishes it with precision. Think about this. Has the market ever given you what you desperately wanted in that moment? Of course not. The more emotional you are, the more the market smacks you around. And this is where the lessons from legendary traders really hit home. George Soros was the king of emotional neutrality. If you've ever heard stories about George Soros, you know one thing: he didn't care about being right. He cared about being neutral enough to see the truth. When Soros took massive positions, he didn't do it from excitement or greed. He did it from clarity, that clean, calm mental state where the setup made sense and the risk was controlled. And even when he was wrong, he didn't fight it. He didn't add because he felt stubborn. He didn't try to force the market to agree with him. He just cut it, instantly. No drama, no emotional tantrum, no need to prove something. That emotional neutrality is what gave him power. And that's what's missing in most retail traders. Maybe it's missing in you. Impulse is the opposite of mastery. Impulse is your brain trying to escape discomfort. Fear tells you, get out, save yourself. Greed tells you, push harder, take more. Ego tells you, you can't be wrong again. And impatience whispers, just enter now, you'll figure it out later. And listen, traders destroy accounts not because they lack talent, but because they lack impulse control. Impulse makes you act before the market has shown its hand. Impulse makes you break your own strategy. Impulse convinces you that this time is different, when it never is. This is why Mark Douglas said, you don't trade the markets, you trade your beliefs about the markets. Your impulses are just beliefs disguised as urgency. Breaking the revenge trading cycle. Let's talk about that moment you hate, the loss that hits harder than it should. You know the one. The one where you instantly feel your mind tighten, your breathing shift, your heart kick up, and suddenly you're not thinking anymore. You're reacting. You're trying to get even. Revenge trading isn't about money. It's about your nervous system trying to remove emotional discomfort. So how do you stop it? Let's break it down into something simple, something you can actually use today. Technique number 1. Drop the tempo. Most traders lose control because the speed of the moment takes over. If you can slow your internal tempo, you gain control instantly. Before your next trade, ask yourself one question. What's my emotional speed right now? If your thoughts feel fast, you're not neutral. If your breathing is tight, you're not neutral. If you feel any sense of needing something, you're not neutral. A professional trader never trades from emotional speed. They trade from emotional stillness. Technique number 2, the 5-second mind reset. Don't worry, this isn't some cheesy self-help trick. This is what pros actually do. When you feel impulse rising, give your mind a 5-second reset. Not a break, not a meditation, a reset. 5 seconds of mental space interrupts the emotional loop long enough for your prefrontal cortex to come back online, so you can actually make a rational decision. The pros don't avoid emotion. They interrupt it before it hijacks them. Technique number 3, narrative cutting. This one might be the most powerful. Every impulsive trade begins with a story in your mind. I can't miss this. I need to get it back. This is the one. I deserve a win. It's moving. Get in now. That story is the real trigger, not the market itself. Narrative cutting means you consciously break the story in real time. Example, if your mind says, I need to make it back right now, you answer, no, I need to protect my capital so I can trade tomorrow. You cut the story and replace it with truth.
Impulse is storytelling. Discipline is truth-telling. Impulse doesn't disappear. You just stop letting it drive. You're not trying to become a robot. Robots don't win in the market. Self-aware humans do. Impulse will always show up, but your job is to become the kind of trader who sees it, acknowledges it, and refuses to let it touch the keyboard. That's real mastery. And final story. The moment Soros doubled down. Here's something most traders don't know. One of George Soros's biggest winning moments came not from brilliance, but from neutrality. When he saw the British pound collapsing, he didn't act out of greed. He acted because he was emotionally neutral enough to trust the setup without hesitation. He wasn't chasing. He wasn't forcing. He wasn't trying to win big. He was simply aligned with the market, not fighting it, not fearing it, not fantasizing. Neutrality created decisiveness. Your job isn't to kill impulse. Your job is to rise above it. And now this is where things get even deeper. Because even if you master impulse in the moment, it won't stick unless you build a structure that reinforces discipline every single day. That's exactly what the next chapter is about. Jesse Livermore, one of the greatest and most tragic traders of all time, didn't fail because he lacked talent. He failed because he broke his own routines. If you're ready to build a discipline loop that protects you from yourself, then take a breath, let this sink in, and I'll meet you in Chapter 8, Turning Setbacks into Strength.
You're here right now because somewhere in your trading journey, losses have hit you harder than they should. And in the next few minutes, you're going to learn how to flip those setbacks into real strength. The same way Mark Douglas did. The same way professional traders do. Listen closely, because what you're about to hear might finally end the shame, frustration, and self-blame you feel every time a trade goes wrong. And yeah, if you're smart, you shouldn't need this, but you're here anyway. So let's fix the part of trading nobody ever taught you. In the next 10 minutes, you're going to discover the emotional pattern that keeps breaking your confidence and the exact practice that will rebuild it. Comment below. When was the last trade you made because you had to be right? Let's get into it. Setbacks aren't failures. They're data. Let me tell you something Mark Douglas lived by. A loss is only painful if you attach your identity to it. Most traders don't lose money because they're bad at trading. They lose money because every loss feels personal. It hits their confidence, their self-worth, their dignity. You know that feeling, the sting of being wrong, that moment where your mind says, "How did I screw that up again?" But pros don't think that way. Professionals treat every loss like a message, neutral, objective, informative. And if you can learn to treat losses as data, not identity, your emotional world as a trader will shift forever. Mark Douglas's real magic is emotional forgiveness. Most traders never talk about this, but it's true. You can't trade well if you haven't forgiven yourself. Think of the last time you held a loser too long, or sized too big, or jumped into a setup you knew damn well wasn't ready. What did you do afterward? Did you beat yourself up? Did you tell yourself you're stupid? Did you swear you'd never do that again, only to repeat it later? That cycle isn't a trading problem. It's an emotional problem. Mark Douglas taught that resilience starts with emotional forgiveness. You don't forgive the market, you forgive yourself. Because without self-forgiveness, there is no emotional reset. And without a reset, discipline collapses. A story from the greatest, Stanley Druckenmiller. Let me take you into the mind of one of the best, Stanley Druckenmiller. Druck once shared that his worst losses didn't come from bad ideas. They came from not listening to his inner voice, from ignoring his own rules, from losing touch with his own discipline. But here's the powerful part. He didn't spiral. He didn't self-destruct. He didn't take it personally. He said, I was wrong. I'll adjust. That's it. No drama, no shame. Just responsibility and a reset. That reset is resilience. And resilience is a skill you can build starting today. The 3 practices of resilient traders. Mark Douglas didn't preach fairy tales. He preached practices, the habits that allowed him to become emotionally stable in a field designed to make you unstable. Here are the 3 practices he lived by. Practice number 1, the honest debrief. After every setback, the amateur says, I messed up. The professional says, what did this loss teach me? One is emotional, the other is analytical. Honest debriefing means looking at your loss without insult, without judgment, and without beating yourself down. Ask yourself, what information did this trade reveal about my behavior? Not the market, your behavior. That question builds resilience faster than any strategy. Practice number 2, emotional reset rituals. Every pro has a reset ritual. It's not optional, it's survival. Some step away from the screen, some journal, some review their rules, some take a walk, some do breath work. It doesn't matter what the ritual is. What matters is that you interrupt the emotional residue before it spreads into your next decision. Because emotional residue is dangerous. It makes you chase losses. It makes you doubt setups. It makes you trade from fear instead of clarity. Your resilience grows the moment you tell your nervous system, we're safe, we're resetting. Practice number 3, confidence rebuilding through micro wins. Most traders think confidence comes from big wins. Wrong. Confidence comes from keeping your small promises. Taking the planned stop, that's a win. Following your risk rule, that's a win. Avoiding a bad setup, huge win. Walking away when you're emotional, that's a championship level win. Every time you honor your rules, your identity shifts. You stop seeing yourself as a reckless trader. You start seeing yourself as someone capable of discipline. Resilience isn't about being tough. It's about rebuilding trust with yourself. Turning setbacks into strength means living in reality. Mark Douglas believed the most powerful traders are the ones who live in reality, not fantasy, not fear, not ego. Reality says losses are part of the game. Mistakes happen. Setbacks are information. Your value doesn't drop because a trade goes against you. What matters is how quickly you return to balance, how fast you regain clarity, how consistently you rebuild trust with yourself. Resilience isn't a trait, it's a choice, repeated daily. A moment of reflection. Think about the last setback that shook you. Not the loss itself, but the emotional aftermath. Did it change your decisions? Did it alter your mindset? Did it affect the next few trades? That's where resilience matters most. Not in the loss, but in the recovery. If you're brave enough, drop it in the comments. What setback taught you the most? You might inspire someone who's fighting the same battle. Now that you've learned how to turn losses into strength, we're going even deeper. Because resilience is powerful, but it's only one piece of becoming a truly disciplined trader. In the next chapter, we're going to talk about identity. Not the trader you were, not the trader you're struggling with, but the trader you are becoming. A trader whose discipline isn't forced, but automatic. A trader whose calm is built in, not temporary. A trader whose decisions come from identity, not emotion. Breathe in.
Let this chapter settle. I'll meet you in Chapter 9, The Trader You Are Becoming, Integrating Discipline into Your Identity.
If you've made it this far, you're not just learning discipline, you're becoming someone new. And in the next few minutes, you're going to understand the part of trading that almost nobody talks about. How your identity, the trader you believe you are, quietly decides every win, every loss, every impulse, and every moment of discipline. Listen closely, because this chapter, this is the turning point. This is where trading stops being something you try to control and becomes something you live. If you're smart, you shouldn't need this, yet you're here. So let's fix the part of your trading that no indicator, strategy, or chart ever could. In the next 10 minutes, you're going to learn the hidden identity trigger that keeps ruining your discipline and how to become the calm, steady, bulletproof trader you were meant to be. Before we go deeper, let me ask you. Comment below, when was the last trade you made because you had to be right? Let's get into it. Identity before strategy. Most traders think discipline comes from rules, but rules don't stick if your identity isn't aligned with them. A reactive trader might try to follow rules, but the moment fear, greed, or excitement kicks in, the identity wins. You don't rise to the level of your intentions, you fall to the level of your identity. Mark Douglas understood this deeply. He taught that you don't need more discipline, you need to become a disciplined person. This isn't about forcing yourself, it's about transforming who you are when the market puts pressure on you. The shift from trying to being. Right now you might think, I'm trying to be disciplined. I'm trying to follow my plan. I'm trying not to overtrade. But trying is temporary. Trying breaks down under stress. Trying collapses the moment emotions rise. Professionals don't try. They behave from identity. Think of traders like Paul Tudor Jones. He doesn't try to respect risk. He is someone who respects risk. It's part of his DNA. It's woven into every decision he makes. Identity creates automatic behavior, and that's what you're building right now. A story from Ray Dalio, The Identity Reconstruction. Ray Dalio's massive early blow-up could have destroyed him. He was young, confident, and believed he was absolutely right about the markets. He wasn't. When his fund collapsed, he lost everything, financially and emotionally. But instead of reacting, instead of spiraling, instead of becoming reckless, he rebuilt himself from the inside out. He said something powerful. I had to decide what type of person I wanted to be. Not what strategy he wanted to use, not what indicator he wanted to follow, not what prediction he wanted to make, who he wanted to be. That's identity work. And that's what separates long-term traders from emotional ones. Identity is a collection of repeated choices. Identity is not a single moment. It's the accumulation of tiny behaviors repeated over and over. Every time you follow a stop loss, you add to the identity of a disciplined trader. Every time you walk away from a bad setup, you strengthen that identity. Every time you wait for your criteria to line up, you reinforce who you're becoming. And every time you break your rules, you weaken that identity. The good news is, identity is fluid. You can resurrect discipline at any moment by choosing differently right now. The quiet conversation inside you. Identity is the voice that talks before you act. The reactive trader says, I can't miss this move. This trade has to work. I need to get my money back. I can't be wrong again. But the evolving trader, the one you're becoming, says, I follow my edge, not my fear. I don't chase emotional trades. I trust my process more than the outcome. I'm here for consistency, not excitement. Your internal dialogue is the first sign your identity is changing. How to become the calm, consistent trader. Here's the transformation roadmap professionals follow, even if they don't call it that. Step 1, see yourself differently. You can't behave like a disciplined trader if you still identify as someone who messes up a lot. This is where you start telling yourself the truth. You're learning, you're growing, you're evolving, you're becoming someone new. This shift alone impacts your emotional stability. Step 2, act like the trader you want to be. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. When you face a decision, ask yourself, what would the disciplined version of me do? And then do that. Consistency isn't magic, it's alignment. Step 3, reinforce identity with micro wins. Every small disciplined decision becomes a vote for your new identity. You don't need perfection, you need momentum. Those micro wins stack up. They become your story. They become your instinct. They become the way you operate without thinking. Step 4, let go of the old you. This part is emotional because some traders secretly cling to their old patterns of revenge trading, gambling, or reacting. Maybe you've tied your self-worth to the thrill. Maybe you're used to the chaos. Maybe discipline feels boring compared to the rush. But discipline is not the death of excitement. It's the birth of professional confidence. You can't carry both identities, the reckless trader and the disciplined one. One of them has to go, and you already know which one you're choosing. And step 5, repeat until it feels natural. The moment your disciplined behavior becomes automatic, you'll know your identity has changed. The moment you pass on a revenge trade without a second thought, you'll feel it. The moment you walk away from the screen during emotional days, you'll feel it. The moment you follow your rules even when your ego screams, you'll feel it. That's the new you. That's the identity of a calm, consistent trader. A question before we transition. Think about the trader you were 6 months ago. Think about the trader you are now. What's the biggest identity shift you've already made? Drop it in the comments. You never know who you might motivate with your answer. Now that you understand the trader you're becoming, it's time to step fully into that identity. Because this journey doesn't end here. This chapter isn't your finish line. It's your turning point. In the next and final chapter, we're going to give you the momentum you need to carry this transformation forward. Your discipline, your mindset, your growth, it's just beginning.
Chapter 10. Your journey to mastery continues. Listen closely, because the next few minutes might be the most important in this entire audiobook. You've spent hours transforming your mindset, rewiring your emotional patterns, and learning the psychological frameworks that separate amateurs from professionals. Now, it's time for the final step, turning everything you've learned into momentum that never stops. In this chapter, you'll discover how to lock in your new identity, how to keep your discipline sharp, and how to stay on the path to mastery long after this audiobook ends. And here's my promise. If you truly absorb what you're about to hear, you'll never look at your trading journey the same way again. You'll approach the markets with a level of calm confidence that most traders never reach. Before we begin, let me ask you something powerful. Something that most traders never ask themselves. What do you want trading to make you become? Not what you want to earn, not what you want to buy. Who do you want to become through this journey?
Drop your answer in the comments. Your words might inspire someone who needs it more than you realize. Now, let's talk. You are no longer who you were. Look back for a moment, not at your trades, at yourself. The version of you who started Chapter 1, the one who was stressed, reactive, maybe confused, maybe frustrated. That version is already fading. Replacing them is someone calmer, someone more aware, someone who sees the market with clearer eyes. And that didn't happen by accident. You earned it. Most traders go their whole lives without ever facing their own psychology. They blame the market. They blame the strategy. They blame the news, the spreads, the entries. But not you. You looked inward. You stepped into the uncomfortable. You chose growth, even when it forced you to face truths you might have avoided in the past. That alone puts you in the top 1%. Because here's the real secret of trading that Mark Douglas tried to teach the world. The market is a mirror. It reflects you, not your predictions. And you, my friend, you've changed what that mirror reflects. That's not small. That's monumental. Your discipline is no longer a tool. It's an identity. By now, you've learned something profound. Discipline isn't something you use. It's something you become. Read that again in your mind. The disciplined trader isn't someone who tries really hard not to break rules. It's someone whose identity makes breaking rules feel unnatural. You're beginning to feel that shift. The urge to revenge trade, it doesn't hit as hard. The pull to force a setup, easier to resist. The need to be right, fading, slowly but surely. These aren't habits, they're identity markers. You're becoming a trader who operates from clarity, not chaos. From purpose, not panic. From discipline, not desperation. That's rare, and it's powerful. Your journey doesn't end. It compounds. Here's the truth you must hold on to. Mastery is not a final destination. It's a direction. The goal isn't to arrive, it's to keep walking. Every chart you analyze, every decision you make, every moment of patience you practice, it all compounds. Just like the great traders you admire, Ed Seykota, Paul Tudor Jones, Stanley Druckenmiller, you will evolve through cycles of learning, refining, and renewing. The difference between them and the average trader isn't intelligence. It's consistency. It's devotion. It's staying on the journey, especially when it gets uncomfortable. You have everything you need to join that path, but you have to keep going. Your new responsibility. With transformation comes responsibility. You now understand things most traders don't even know exist. You understand emotional triggers. You understand identity-level discipline. You understand the psychology behind every decision you make. And that means something. You're responsible for your growth. No more blaming, no more shortcuts, no more letting emotion drive the bus. From this moment forward, you're stepping into your next chapter as a trader who owns their mindset. You've earned that, but now you must protect it, feed it, strengthen it. Revisit this audiobook when you need it. Stay connected to environments that reinforce discipline, because identity grows strongest in the environments that support it. Now,
Let me speak directly to you, the person still here, still listening, still learning. If this audiobook helped you, if it shifted something inside you, if it made you look at trading or yourself differently, then don't let this be the end. Let it be the spark. Join the community. Subscribe to Psych Rich. Stay connected to voices that build you, not break you. This channel exists for traders like you, the ones hungry for something deeper than strategy, the ones who want psychological mastery, the ones committed to becoming the strongest version of themselves. And trust me, you'll want to be here for what comes next. Your growth doesn't stop here. It starts here. The final message. Before we close this audiobook, I want to leave you with one sentence. You are closer than you think and stronger than you realize. Carry that with you into the markets. Carry that into your decisions. Carry that into the identity you're building. You are becoming the trader you once dreamed of being. Now, keep becoming them every single day. Thank you for listening, for learning, and for growing. And when you're ready, your journey to mastery continues right here on Psych Rich. Let's rise together.